Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's webinar, Part 1 of the Deploy Innovative Apps to Extend SAP SuccessFactors Solutions with SAP HANA Cloud Platform, our webinar series. Today's event is entitled How to Streamline HR Processes by Extending SAP SuccessFactors Solutions, hosted by SAP Insider and presented by SAP. My name is Steve Paul. I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and our presenters, and later in the program we'll ask for your feedback. You can participate in our Q&A session by asking questions about the information presented in this webinar at any time. Just type your question into the Q&A text box located below the speaker bios on the left, and then click the Submit button. We'll answer as many questions as time permits after our presentation. Slides will advance automatically throughout the event, and you can download a PDF copy of our presentation by clicking in the resource box on the bottom left of our console. And at this time, we recommend you disable your pop-up blockers. If you're experiencing any technical problems, please visit our webinar help guide by clicking on the Help question mark icon on the bottom right of our console. And if slides are not advancing, please press the F5 key on your keyboard to refresh your console. And now on to our presentation, How to Streamline HR Processes by Extending SAP SuccessFactors Solutions. Discussing today's topic will be Tobias Block, Vice President Sales, North America, Accenture Software for Human Capital Management, and Tyson Verstrade, VP of Sales, North American Business Platform as a Service, COE for SAP. First, we'll hear from Tyson.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. So I'd like to start off, guys, by welcoming a warm welcome to all the customers that are joining us today. We certainly value your time and energy around the topic. As Steve mentioned, we will be discussing today streamlining HR processes by extending SAP SuccessFactors Solutions with Accenture and the SAP HANA Cloud Platform. My name is Tyson Verstrade, and I lead SAP's HANA Cloud Platform team here in North America, and I am joined by Tobias Bloch, who leads Human Capital Management for Accenture Software. Today, we will set the context for the overall business problem that we face. We will provide an overview on HANA Cloud Platform, and then we will dive into how Accenture Software is leveraging the platform to solve real HR challenges by developing out-of-the-box applications for SuccessFactors. So, in terms of the business context, business is moving faster than ever. The demand of the business to adapt and innovate is putting immense pressure on the lines of businesses to react and respond quickly. We see this across all lines of business, but specifically to HR, we're seeing this all the time. And customer examples that we have lived through are things like HR leaders learning about a new diversity program that their company is launching when the CEO announces it. And they're left trying to figure out how they're going to support and manage that program, and oh, by the way, do that ASAP. We've seen customers where employee engagement scores come out, and it becomes obvious that millennials are just not responding to their traditional rewards package. So HR leaders are looking to us to say, what are new ways to motivate and incent our employees? We've also seen other customers, another example, where customers are struggling with new regulations. And regulations coming out constantly, the CEO turns to the HR leaders and says, are we compliant with this? And our customers coming back saying, how do we manage this in a programmatic fashion? Now, we all know that business is moving faster every day, but responding to that is not necessarily getting any easier. So a lot of our customers, we see that the as-is state of IT today, we just can't keep up. So when we look at either build or buy today, they're just not getting the job done. building out tools that you may need to solve problems just takes too long. We're talking months, years long projects, and the cost never fits the budget. And on the other hand, as we look more on buy, we see customers where standalone SaaS tools often are leaving gaps related to your unique business needs, industry requirements, and regulatory environments. So the question that we ask is, what if we could change the game completely? What if we could help you respond? Just changing slides. What if we could help you respond at the speed of business? So what if you could build applications in a matter of days and weeks? What if you could buy out-of-the-box applications that integrate seamlessly with your HR systems? And that's what we're here to talk to you about today. So before I jump into HANA Cloud Platform, and I realize that this example I'm going to talk about is not specifically HR related, but I thought it was a lot of fun, so I thought I would share it. So as many of us know, fantasy sports are exploding. And fantasy sports drive a significant increase in engagement for a sports franchise. So when the NBA was looking to rapidly enhance their fantasy basketball fan experience, they turned to SAP and to the HANA Cloud Platform. And we find HR leaders, we find leaders in general throughout enterprise today being inspired by what they actually see in the consumer side of their lives, right? So when I look at this visual, I see a beautiful user experience. I see hundreds of players, millions of stats, and I see real-time analytics. And I can't help but think that we hear from our customers, from progressive HR leaders, wrestling with similar challenges. So, the HANA Cloud Platform. So the HANA Cloud Platform is a development platform provided by SAP that allows you to rapidly build net new applications, extend existing applications, such as SuccessFactors, adding required functionality, and most importantly, integrating natively, integrating seamlessly back into your core SuccessFactors and HCM software. Now, the question is, how do we do this? The HANA Cloud Platform does this by providing your developers or your partners with all the building blocks that they need to rapidly piece together to build an application. Every application is going to have some commonality. There are going to be user experience elements. There's going to be security, single sign-on. Mobility will be a concern for every application. Every application needs to integrate with other systems, and especially to seamlessly integrate with the tools that your employees are already using. So what HANA Cloud Platform does is it provides these building blocks so that your developers or partners can focus their time and energy on the business logic and the unique aspects of your business problem. And on the call today, we have Accenture, one of our top development partners, that uses the HANA Cloud Platform to develop out-of-the-box applications solving common HR business challenges. The HANA Cloud Platform is deployed globally. It has a significant amount of customers, and we've got 400 plus partners that are developing on the platform today. And the customers that are adopting the HANA Cloud Platform, customers that are either building applications, extending applications, or buying out of the box third-party applications, range from small and medium-sized customers up to some of the largest customers in the world. And you see on the screen here just a small sample of customers that make use of the HANA Cloud Platform today. And finally, before I pass it on to Tobias, for those looking to learn more about the HANA Cloud Platform, you can go to hcp.sap.com, where you'll find a wealth of information, including access to a free developer trial that you can go in and begin to use and explore the platform at your leisure. And secondly, you will be able to access our application center that houses the 1,000-plus applications that our partners have built for the HANA Cloud Platform. So with that, I'd like to pass it on to Tobias from Accenture Software. Tobias, you're up.
Tyson, thank you very much, and again, I welcome all our participants today and thank them for their time that they're going to spend with us. So let me start with a little bit of background around the HANA Cloud Platform. I know Tyson has given you a high-level overview, but I suspect there's quite a large number of folks on this call who are coming from the SAP HCM on-premise world, right? And for those folks, let me spend 2 minutes and paraphrase the challenge. So in the SAP on-premise world, we had our Z space. That's where our ABAPers used to go and create custom functionality to fill in either gaps or specific requirements that their company had, right? And when we look at the cloud world, that for a long time didn't exist. It was, take it or leave it as it is. And one of the main benefits of SuccessFactors and Employee Central these days, when I compare it against some of the other HCM cloud applications, is that SuccessFactors has given you, in my mind, the best of both worlds. You get a lot of baked-in best practice cloud functionality, but you also now are able to do extensions and customizations to fill in that last 5 or 10%. And the analogy that I heard in the industry out there is that the HANA Cloud Platform is the new ABAP. It's the place where now you can go and build your extensions. And to cover a little bit of some of the topics that Tyson mentioned, it's got a lot of benefits. So similar to the way the Z space used to work in SAP, the HANA Cloud Platform is very much a protected environment. It is already within the SAP data center. So in the same room that your Employee Central or SuccessFactors system is operating in sits the HANA Cloud Platform. It never leaves the data center. It's right there, and it's very well protected. It's got a lot of utilities which come with it, things like disaster recovery and single sign-on and user authentication and the vanilla functions to call that support either turnkey apps, which is apps, for example, that my group sells, or if you're building custom functionality for your company, you can leverage all those things automatically in a very much a protected environment. And I think the combination of the vanilla functionality you get with SuccessFactors Employee Central plus that last 5 or 10% of customizations that you can do makes it a very powerful combination. So let me give you a very, very high-level overview of some of the ways that Accenture Software for Human Capital Management has used the HANA Cloud Platform to create apps for SuccessFactors and Employee Central customers. Again, we're not going to be able to do a big demo or deep dive into any of these. We can for sure do private demos with any of you afterwards, but I wanted to give you a very high-level overview of the use cases. So again, I'm going to go start from clockwise from the top right. And again, super high level, so don't feel like you need to absorb all of this. But if I start clockwise with the Accenture Audit and Compliance tool, Tyson brought up one of these use cases, which is when regulations change, when folks from your union come to you asking for specific evidences, or you've got somebody from labor relations or from internal audit, when people are asking the tough questions of, I'm really worried about this particular situation happening, is there anything in the system that will catch these types of things? And I'll give you an example. Do you have employees which are not supposed to be operating a certain specific piece of machine because their training has expired? Is that happening in the system? Could I have a situation where I've got an employee in one state and I'm paying payroll taxes in another state? Could I have a situation where I have large changes, maybe due to fraud or user error, where I'm about to render payments to employees where there's no justification for it? So how do you prevent that from happening? And again, we've created an app right in HANA Cloud Platform that deals with all things related to audit and compliance within Employee Central and SuccessFactors. Moving down, again, clockwise, let's talk about Document Composer, right? This particular app is all around creating SuccessFactor and Employee Central documents, giving the administrator a very nice screen that's very sophisticated, very simple to create pretty looking documents and be able to create those templates and then have those templates be called upon every time a document gets generated, whether or not the employee generates the document themselves by clicking a button that says, hey, I want to get my total rewards statement or my employee verification statement. All those things happen automatically because there's an app that the business used to create those templates. Moving on to that green, at the 7 o'clock position, the Accenture Clone and Test for Cloud, right? This is an app that's similar to its brother that lives inside the SAP HR on-premise world. Clone and Test for Cloud is all about copying data from production down to downstream systems in SuccessFactors and Employee Central and anonymizing that data so that you still have good data, but it's anonymized, or be able to create data very quickly without having to run big conversion programs or manually type it in, right? Then lastly, at the continue clockwise is the Accenture Data Comparison Manager. So this is a tool that's used to bring data into Employee Central to help pull it from legacy systems, transform it, and load it into ECSF, right? So again, these are all tools that are there to help businesses move forward, and the HANA Cloud Platform was instrumental in that effort. Okay, so with that, I gave you a very high-level overview. I'll do a quick deep dive. We won't be able to do a demo, but I think it'll give you more of a flavor of the potential of the HANA Cloud Platform and what's available already today, turnkey, within the SAP HANA Cloud Platform App Store. Right. So the first one, again, let's do that discussion related to audit and compliance. Right. So in the old world, whether or not it was SAP or PeopleSoft or ADP or whatever your old legacy HRIS or payroll system was, how did we find issues, right? It was always an exercise of finding the needle in the haystack, right? And so what we would do is we would, first of all, create a lot of custom reports. We would get somebody to run all those reports. We would get somebody else to maybe extract all that data, bring it to Excel, do VLOOKUPs, run it around, via email, and try to find all those situations of potential errors, right? And that was a lot of effort and also a lot of risk, right? Because now we've extracted data from a place that was very secured and whatnot, and now it's in Excel floating around in emails, right? But we had to do that because there was no other way of identifying the needles in the haystack. And so what we've done with the Audit and Compliance app is kind of turn that on its head and to say, you know what, our time is too valuable. We don't have time to create reports or run reports or do big VLOOKUPs. I want the system to know what I am concerned about. I want the system to know what my tolerances are. And I want the system to tell me if it finds an issue, right? And don't give me a big dashboard that's got 90,000 line items on it. I want to see a dashboard that's got 5 line items on it, all of which are high risk and need a human being to look at. And that's what we've done with the Audit and Compliance tool on the HANA Cloud Platform. So it's a tool, it's an app that's got a very robust library of rules, I think something like 600 or 700 as of today. Each company gets to choose, each customer of the app gets to choose which rules apply to them. They get to choose the way the wording is laid out in terms of the description. They get to choose their tolerance. They get to choose how often they want that to query the system. And when the administrator goes into the dashboard, they basically get not the haystack, but just the needles, right? It's right there and then say, hey, I think I found 3 instances where the cost center is misaligned. I think I found 2 instances where we might have a payroll leakage happening. And I found an instance where we've got a unionized employee, but for some reason there's no union deduction happening. And again, that data is already in the system, but it gives the administrator a chance to then do something about it. And with the name Audit and Compliance, where it comes from is that it physically audits. It knows exactly who saw what when. So it knows that the system have found these 6 issues. It knows that this person was made aware of them, and it tracks what that person did in terms of fixing the data within SuccessFactors Employee Central, or basically checking it off to say, yes, I understand, but this is an acceptable item for this month, right? So it's got that robust data layer. And again, this was all built because of the HANA Cloud Platform. So let me go and do our next deep dive on our next app, right? So again, go back to Accenture's Clone Test for Cloud. This particular app, though it's new in the cloud world, in the HANA Cloud Platform world, actually has a very long, gloried history, right? I think there's something like 1,300 or 1,400 customers who run the Clone Test application in their SAP on-premise HR payroll system, right? And so those customers are using the ABAP version of that software, right, that sits within their on-premise system to basically copy HR data and payroll data from one system to another and anonymize it based on their conditions. They're using it for a break fix, to expedite the break fix process. They're using it to create test data for projects or M&A activities or whatnot. So, 13 or 1,400 customers are using it today in the on-premise world. Well, that same use case exists in the cloud world as well, right? In terms of, in the cloud world, you also need to be able to copy data. You need to anonymize it, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk through exactly how a Clone Test Cloud gets used today within the SuccessFactors and Employee Central systems, right? So what's happening? You've got production data in your productive system. It's all, for the most part, personal and private information, right? And you need that data to be protected. And in production, it is protected. People have authorization roles. They've got very strict security. You only see what you need to see, and that's great and dandy in production, right? And then we've got our QA and sometimes staging systems, right? Sometimes even development systems within our SuccessFactors Employee Central environments, right? And then the question becomes, well, what kind of data do we have there? Well, guess what? You still want pretty good data in those systems, right? You still need to test interfaces. You still need to test reports. You still need to test specific functions. And you're going to do that in those non-productive systems, right? And so you want good data, but you also want to have the freedom to give access and security permissions to people that typically wouldn't have those types of permissions in production. Your developers, your configurators, your testers, etc. So how exactly do you get good data yet protected if your security is looser in those QA and staging systems? Well, the way Clone Test Cloud works, it gives you, you can have your cake and eat it too, right? You can copy your data from production down to QA, but in the process of copying it, you get to anonymize it, right? So you basically get good data, but now it's protected. Now it's anonymized. Nobody can specifically see that I know exactly what Tobias's or Tyson's birth date is or salary information, etc. And you can anonymize it at the employee type level. You can choose to remove everybody's salary and put it at $1. You can change everybody's birth date and put it as January 1st, 1970 if you would like. There's all sorts of flexibility in terms of how you set up your specific anonymization rules. And how do you use Clone and Test Cloud today? Well, there's probably three main use cases. One of them is to refresh your QA and staging systems, right? Instead of having to do a big copy of production once a month or once a quarter, you have an app that basically says, I want to move a portion or all of my data from production down, and I want to do it right now, right? And it's in your control, completely at your disposal, right? So you use it in terms of refreshes. You use it to expedite your bug fixes, right? You've got some director that calls and says, I'm getting this particular issue when I'm going into my compensation module, right? And then you say, well, how do I replicate that issue in QA, right? Well, the way you do it is you copy that manager's information from production down to QA. You ask that manager, hey, well, whose record was you looking at? So you copy that employee's record as well, and you quickly copy that data so you can hopefully start your bug fix process in QA very quickly without having to manually enter all the data again or try to replicate that issue. The last one is it happens a lot, is I need large volumes of specific data. I'm doing a big interface test to my benefit provider. I want 10,000 records of 10 different employee types. How do I do that? Well, I don't want to run a big conversion project. Well, here's 10 employees, the 10 employees I like. I want 1,000 copies of all of them. With a click of a button, each one of those guys becomes 1,000 records, and now I've got lots and lots of test data to go do what I need to do, right? So Clone and Test, that's Clone and Test Cloud in a nutshell, right? And again, these are all apps that you can get today at the App Center and get demos today, right? Very, very quick turnaround in terms of how long it takes from the demo stage to when you have it in production and you're using it. So again, next kind of example of apps that help us within SuccessFactors and Employee Central. Let's talk about document creation, right? This is a major challenge for most organizations, right? So the key here is I want to be able to create documents, usually PDFs, usually electronically sent, sometimes printed, sometimes mailed out through snail mail. But I need to be able to create documents, right? And so those documents have to adhere to my policies, right? I can't go and create, offer letters that are randomized. This recruiter is creating this types of letters versus that, et cetera, right? Or if it's total reward statements or whatnot. So I need to have some structure to formalize the templates, right? Well, with this latest app, which is Accenture Document Composer, which is again a variant of the same software that exists on the on-premise world, what it provides is it gives the business a chance to manage their templates. These templates are very pretty, very sophisticated looking. They're very easy to create, right? And what I mean by templates, I mean everything from all your types of recruiting letters, in terms of show up to this date for this interview, or thank you letters, or here's the actual offer letter, or offer confirmation, whatnot. So think of all the documents that you would typically create in the recruiting cycle and all the variants of those based on whether or not it's a unionized employee or management or whatnot, right? So all your recruiting letters, all your compensation history letters, all your total rewards letters, all your bonus letters, anything that is a combination of your company logo plus some static text plus very, very specific text related to your employee record. All of those things have a template that's attached to them and can automatically be generated. And what I mean by automatically generated, I'll give you a specific example, right? So typically, I would say the three use cases that you would have is an employee would self-generate, right? I'm going directly to SuccessFactors. I've got a drop-down menu, and I say I want to have my employment verification letter right now, or I want to see my compensation history letter for the last 5 years. I don't want to call HR for it. I don't want to go to some website, submit a form that's going to be outsourced to some other company. It's going to take a week to get that back to me. I want to press a button. I want to have it, right? That data is kind of my data. It's in the system. Why can't I see my total rewards letters now? Well, you can. It's just a button. HR has designed a form. That form is linked to the button. It knows who I am, and it knows that I'm allowed to see my own data. And when I click that button, I get my PDF, right? So that's a self-generated letter. The letter can also be generated by an HR professional or manager. So that's usually the case of recruiting letters, right? So where I'm going to make an offer. Now it's time to generate the offer letter, and it's reading a template that's all standardized, that's been approved by legal, been approved by HR, and it self-generates, or it generates a letter that then the recruiter can send out. Or the third kind of scenario is, batch runs, right? When I'm doing my bonus letters, so my whole company of 10,000 employees, that's a batch run that each employee is already, the bonus amount is already predetermined, and now it's time to generate those letters and get them out the door, right? So again, to recap, these are, self-generated by the employee, could be generated for somebody else. That's a case of a manager or an HR professional doing it, or third, it can be generated by the system through a large batch run, right? So I think when I started this, I don't know if I told you guys, but I covered 3 apps, but I'm going to throw a bonus one out there. And a bonus one, I don't mean buy one get one free. It's more of it's the latest and greatest one, and I wanted to kind of throw the use case out. And if you guys want to learn more, it's definitely going to be covered at Success Connect in Las Vegas at the end of August. Happy to do further discussions on this. But the last app that just got generated out of our app factory is the mass update tool, right? So this is this isn't going to solve world hunger or the cure to cancer or whatnot, but this is the latest way for Accenture software to go and fill a gap. And the gap is that companies are looking for a way to do mass updates. So whether or not I'm updating records that already exist, or I'm creating a large volume of changes in the system related to hiring, termination, pay changes, etc. Right? And these are things that don't just touch one portlet, but changes that attach many, many portlets and many SuccessFactor modules. Right? So how do I quickly do that? Through a tool that sucks up an interface and allows me to go and update that. So the mass update tool for SuccessFactors and Employee Central is exactly that. And again, powered by the HANA Cloud Platform, right? So again, we have customers come and say, hey, we love your other apps, Clone and Test Cloud and Audit and Compliance as a service and all the other stuff, but I really wish we had some way of creating mass updates. And then we said, hey, this can actually fit. We can do this within HANA Cloud Platform. And we went and built that app and are now actually having it leveraged within some of our other applications. So for example, in Audit and Compliance, if the tool comes back and tells you that, hey, I found 1,000 instances of this issue coming up, that's a lot of records to go and update, right? You don't want to go do that manually. Well, in Audit Compliance, you say, well, thank you very much for identifying that I have 1,000 places where the cost center is misaligned. And right there and then I can go and fix it with the mass update tool and go and overwrite 2,000 records and get Audit and Compliance happy again, right? So again, this is another use case of the HANA Cloud Platform. I'm going to stop there because I really think the best way to go about this is to have a very lively Q&A. So with that, Steve, I might hand it over to you and have you kind of help us go through the questions that are out there.
Okay. Well, nice job. Good presentation. We do have a lot of good questions already in the queue. Before we do that, we also want to push out a feedback survey to our audience so that they can give us their comments on how we did today and give us some feedback so we can improve for future events. Also want to let our audience know that we do have future events coming up. And in fact, here is a link to register for the other webcasts in our series. Our next event is August 10th, part 2 of our series, How to Elevate with SAP SuccessFactors Solutions. So visit that. Right off the bat, we can take a quick question here from Brian. Brian wants to know how much of this works without having Employee Central. We own the rest of the suite.
So Tobias, why don't I kick off and then you can complete. So guys, out of the box, there are going to be a number of different applications, so third-party applications that target Employee Central, but there will be other applications that target the other modules, recruiting, onboarding, et cetera, et cetera. So that's on the out-of-the-box side. And then in terms of building your own applications, seamlessly integrating back, that you can do against any of the modules that you own. And then Tobias, if you want to maybe speak to the specific applications that you have spoken about today.
Yeah, I would say all of these work for Employee Central for sure, but many of them work for other modules, comp, recruiting, and other things. So it's really a case by case, and it's a developing story. And the reason I say that is, remember earlier on I talked about the utilities that you get to use, the APIs. So one of the big APIs is called the OData API. That allows you to read and write data within SuccessFactors Employee Central. And that is still a work in progress, as it should be, because it's a very, very big function, right? And every quarter, SAP is getting better and better at having the OData API be able to read and write to more portlets and more fields. So when you buy an app, it may not be able to work with every module within the SuccessFactors arena, but if you fast forward that quarter over quarter, it gets more robust and you get more and more functionality automatically. As soon as the OData API is turned on for those portlets, and you can go and then copy data or read the data and do your audit and compliance tools, etc. So we can do it. It's case by case, and I think it was Brian's question. Let's take it offline and you show us which portlets and which modules you use, and we'll give you a very black and white answer around whether or not it works today, or if it's going to work next quarter or a year from now. So Steve,
okay, thank you. We've got a question here from Murtaza, who wants to know, does developer use ABAP to develop extensions on HANA Cloud Platform, and does it have a similar debugging tools as ABAP platform?
Okay, so again, Tobias, why don't I start? So you do not use ABAP to develop with HANA Cloud Platform. You would use more open programming language, HTML5, JavaScript, Java, depending on what you're writing. HANA Cloud Platform comes with a development environment. It's called Web IDE. That's going to be filled with plugins, customizations that allow you to develop more quickly on HANA Cloud Platform, and that does include debugging tools. Tobias, any comments?
No, that's you hit the nail on the head, right? It's Java based, it's open source with specific robust libraries. So it's not ABAP, but similar in structure in terms of how you would code your custom apps.
Danielle wants to know, is the HANA Cloud Platform required to build extensions?
Okay, so I guess I'll start off again. So you could build an extension. Well, you could build an application using other platforms, as you could always choose another platform to build an application. But when you use the HANA Cloud Platform to build extensions for SuccessFactors, you're going to come out of the box with things like single sign-on. When you use the portal tool to develop an application in the HANA Cloud Platform, the look and feel is going to be seamless. So from a theming and a branding perspective, where your employees will not be able to identify what they see on the screen, tell apart what is SuccessFactors and what's actually an extension. So the out-of-the-box single sign-on, theming, branding, a bunch of plugins, that's the value that HANA Cloud Platform is going to bring when extending for SuccessFactors. And Tobias, you may have some additional thoughts on that.
No, I think you covered it pretty well there.
All right, very good. Let's see. Robert wants to know, is the HR audit compliance tool the same as what the EC payroll control center is?
So, Tyson, I can answer that. So the payroll control center, and it's not just EC, you can also get payroll control center for your on-premise SAP system. So the payroll control center is a framework that is there to help expedite the payroll processing in terms of what are the specific steps. And the payroll control center doesn't have any, it's a framework, it doesn't have any logic or engine in terms of querying the data and identifying specific issues. If you want to do that, then you got to basically populate ABAP functions, no different than the way you did it within, creating custom reports and whatnot, where you populate those ABAP functions to say, hey, I'm looking for this type of employee personnel number with this sub area with this combination. It's all ABAP based, right? And so what we've done this years ago, is when we built a on-premise audit tool, which is actually called the Audit and Compliance tool. So it's written in ABAP. That's the old version of it in terms of old, meaning on-premise. That is all the guts. That's all the logic, and there's no ABAP. It's all config-based. You basically click on the specific occurrences, and you create your rules, your audit rules, right? And those things automatically get integrated to the EC control center. So you use a control center. Your payroll control center is, think of it as your GUI, right? And then the guts comes from the logic, and identification of the issues comes from the Audit and Compliance tool. And so to answer your question, they're not the same, but they do live with one another and help one another operate, right? In terms of Audit and Compliance will give you the logic in a config-based function, and will populate the dashboards that the payroll control center creates. And we've got a few customers that are looking at payroll control center, and they don't want to create ABAP rules, and so they use the Audit Compliance to create their rules in a config-based fashion. So, Steve, back to you.
Okay, great. Let's see. Dan has a question here. Do I need to leverage the SuccessFactors MDF to use any or all of these Accenture apps?
So, Tyson, I could probably answer that. So, maybe you can jump in, Dan, if I forget something. But I would think of the MDF as a way of extending your portlet to some specific fields. It's a good way of adding some extra fields and extending your data model. But it doesn't today, and to my knowledge, it doesn't have, it's not a computing engine, right? It's not going to go and do stuff for you, in terms of, I want to create documents, I want to copy data, I want to scramble things, I want to identify data issues. MDF is a data structure. And so the apps that we've built are built external to the MDF. We said, hey, you know what, we need tables and we need compute power. So we created our own table and are using the compute power from the HANA Cloud Platform. If you just want to create tables, meaning extend your data set, and you don't need any computational facilities, you can just do that through MDF. I want a custom portlet with some custom fields, MDF will cover that. But if you actually want to compute something, then you gotta have a paradigm shift and shift to say, hey, I'm going to build an app, and HCP will be both my way of storing that data and computing on it. Hopefully that kind of answered it.
Good. Barinder wants to know, are the apps mentioned here offered as a package or available separately as well?
Both, right? So, we're a big believer in try it out before you buy, right? And what I mean by that is go check it out, check out the videos and the customer testimonials on the SAP HANA Cloud Store, on our website or whatnot. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to have a very detailed demo with your use cases. You want to ask the tough questions. Make sure that you've got the business justification for buying this, right? So before you go and you say, hey, I'm going to use Audit and Compliance as a service to catch my compliance issues, you should have a very detailed demo and discussion with our engineers to say, hey, these are specifically the portlets, and this is the way I want to have it, and let them go and create that data and those scenarios right in their demo system and prove it back to you, right? And also some of our apps have evaluation agreements where you get to kind of test drive it in QA 4 months or so and actually see that it's working in your system and to your liking, right? And so once you get through that cycle, then you can say, hey, you know what, I like app number 1, 3, and 4, and you definitely get volume, package deals with that. Or you can come back and say, I'm really only interested in this app, and you buy it one at a time. Now, there is no all or nothing in this space. So, Steve, back to you.
Okay, great, and we still have time here, but I see one more question. Are these apps included in SuccessFactors license, or is it based on a subscription model?
So Tobias, why don't you take that?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of these apps, and it only depends, I would say, in there is some customers may have in their who are users of these particular products on the on-premise world. Obviously, they're an existing customer of Accenture software, and they're getting, they'll get if they're going to stop using the on-premise product, like let's say I'm going to stop using Clone and Test on my SAP on-premise system because I'm going to Employee Central SuccessFactors, and then there's definitely some trading that can happen there in terms of dropping one of the on-premise apps for a second app. But there's nothing free in this world, and there's no customers out there that automatically got these apps because they bought Employee Central or SuccessFactors. What I would say is that there are customers certainly who, as part of purchasing SuccessFactors or Employee Central, purchased some HANA Cloud Platform capacity automatically, right? So both the HANA Cloud Platform and the apps are subscription-based, right? Whether or not it's 1, 2, or 3 years for a certain number of users or capacity, and you can always look that up by talking to your account exec on the SAP side or SuccessFactors side. Same with an account exec on the Accenture software side to figure out if you already have it and what's left on the bill of materials for you to be able to leverage some of these things. So that's kind of my answer. I don't know, Tyson, if you've got anything to add there.
Yeah, so I think I would answer it in this way. Similar to when we open the App Store on our phone and we purchase third-party applications that have been developed for your smartphone platform, our third-party application developers are doing the same thing, and so Accenture being one of them. And then as folks look at our enterprise customers looking to deploy a cross-section of applications and potentially building out extensions of their own, then yes, the HANA Cloud Platform is something that you license from SAP in the same way that you license SuccessFactors today. And we would be happy to talk to you about that.
Okay, gentlemen. Well, actually, one more question just popped up. So let's see if we can get to this. Do you purchase the entire HCP suite to use these apps?
So maybe Tobias, I'll take that. So typically, what you're going to look at is you're going to look at what your use case is. Applications, a single application can be purchased. Typically, you're going to need to purchase HCP capability or licenses to support that application. So it can be done, I guess, a couple of different ways. But again, what I would repeat is that as companies look to deploy a number of different applications, plus they're looking at what are we developing, how are we rapidly innovating, they are licensing HCP for a set number of users.
Okay, thank you. Does SuccessFactors HCP support customization, similar to ECC on-premise functionality, like enhancement framework or user exits?
Yeah, so I'll answer it backwards. So absolutely, there is user exits that you can leverage within the HANA Cloud Platform. And all of these apps are built not to read the vanilla SuccessFactor Employee Central modules, but to specifically read the way you have configured that for your specific company, right? So if you've created custom fields or MDF objects within your portlets, these apps will automatically read those and make those accessible. So think of that on the compliance, on the Clone and Test Cloud in terms of copying and scrambling data. If it's a custom field, absolutely it's visible in there, right? And to your first question, yes, there is user exits that they are leveraged.
Great. A question here for Tobias. What is Accenture's long-term view on where SAP HANA Cloud Platform is heading in the customer ecosystem?
Good question. And you know what? I'm probably not authorized to always speak of this, but I will. Right? We would on the software product development side, right? So Accenture Software for Human Capital Management, we've been in the business of creating a software that gets added to the SAP system. We've been doing it for close to 20 years, and I think if we look at all the products that we have in the HR space, there is close to 2,000 customers, right? So again, we've got a lot of history there, and you know, the vast majority of those customers are using apps written in ABAP, right? Because it's 20 years worth of history. We come from that world. And when we looked at our customers in SuccessFactors and Employee Central who are looking for apps for their cloud solution now, well, that can't be done in ABAP. And so we looked long and hard around what's the right platform to do that. You know, do you go do that in Amazon or some other data center or whatnot? And after we did that investigation, and this was a very robust set of exercise, we identified the HANA Cloud Platform as the right place to go and build these commercial add-on products for SuccessFactors Employee Central, because the fact that it was in the same data center and had single sign-on and the support network for the developers, etc. So we identified HANA Cloud Platform as the place that we're going to go and build commercial-grade apps, right? But that same exercise is valid for a customer that's looking to, hey, I need to build my own custom thing. I'm not going to resell it to anybody. I am a very special company. I need a special function, and I need to build it. And where should I build it? My answer to them is, guys, we've done the research. If you are a SuccessFactors Employee Central customer and you need a custom app, look no further than the HANA Cloud Platform. That's the place you should do it. You can buy enough capacity to run one app. You can buy more to run 5. You can buy a lot more to run 100. But the investigation is already done for you. And Accenture, if I look at our own business, we drink that same Kool-Aid. So we've recently decided on SuccessFactors and the Talent Suite, Employee Central, as our go-forward cloud system for our 370,000 employee company, right? And guess what? There isn't a lot of other 370,000 employee company consulting firms. It's not, and there is no module that says, hey, turn this module on if you're a professional services consulting firm, right? Like, it is very special business, or at least we think it's a special business. But because it's special, because it's unique, because we need some custom things, because of the way we run this company, we need some custom functionality. And we're going to use internally the HANA Cloud Platform to build those custom functionality, not to resell that IP to anybody else, but to use it for our own needs, right? So that's the way I would answer your question around what is our long-term view. It's looking very healthy for HANA Cloud Platform, and if I was a customer, I wouldn't spend too many cycles trying to compare and contrast with different hosting providers and whatnot. If you want to buy a commercial app for SuccessFactors, if it's not on the HANA Cloud Platform, you should think twice. If you need to build something custom for your SFEC instance, and you've got a Java developer, HANA Cloud Platform is the place you should send them to go and do that.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Maybe we can squeeze in one more here. Let's see, Winston wants to know, our Employee Central project will start mock conversions in 5 weeks. Does that leave enough time to enable the Audit Cloud app?
Yeah, absolutely. So these things, most of these apps, you could be up and running in between 1 and 2 weeks. By the time you sign the contracts, get the HANA Cloud provision for your customer, get the app installed, configure it. These aren't projects, right? And so we do actually end up with a lot of emergency situations where we need to turn on these apps because the project is running behind schedule. Their business people are super busy. They need a quick way of validating the data, or copying, or scrambling, or whatnot. And so it's not too late. I would say it makes a lot of sense, for example, on the Audit and Compliance app, to turn it on pre-go live. Basically, when you choose the rules, the filtering and the specific items that you want that engine to check for, when you say, hey, I want to protect for cost centers or whatever it is that you're querying, those queries are valid as part of your mock conversion as much as they're valid post go live, right? So if you want to know if you've got bad data, might as well find out that before you go live. And so use your Audit and Compliance in the last couple of cycles of your mock conversions to get a healthy scorecard so you know you can go live with clean data. And that same tool, you leave it turned on and you let it query your system after you've gone live to make sure that as people transact, they're not creating bad data that's then flowing down to your payroll system or your payroll outsourcer or your benefit outsourcer and creating further issues downstream. It's very, very hard to go and collect a paycheck that's been erroneously, sent out to the employee, right? You really want to identify it before the payroll run happens, and Audit and Compliance allows you to do that. And you should do it before go live and continue after.
Hey, Tobias. So, Steve, I just want to jump in. I know we're right up against time, but I see a question on here that I'd like a very quick answer from Tobias on. So the question is, are these Accenture apps dependent on Accenture Consulting?
Absolutely not. And a great question. So the vast majority of my customers just buy the app, just buy a HANA Cloud Platform and implement it themselves. So this is not something that's tied in to the Accenture Consulting mothership. If you've got IBM as your implementer, you're doing the implementation yourself, or Deloitte or ADP or whatnot, you can absolutely buy these apps and have your implementer use them yourselves. There is no ball and chain that you're signing up for when you buy an app.
Okay. Well, thanks, gentlemen. Excellent presentation. Great Q&A. That's all the time we have for this session. So if we didn't get to your question during the live broadcast, someone can follow up with you over the next few business days. Again, a reminder to join us for the upcoming webcast in our series. And we want to thank you all for attending today's webinar, How to Streamline HR Processes by Extending SAP SuccessFactors Solutions, hosted by SAP Insider and presented by SAP. Shortly after this live event, we'll send you an email reminder to access this presentation on demand. And on behalf of our guests, Tobias Bloch, Vice President of Sales, North America Accenture Software for Human Capital Management, and Tyson Verstraete, VP Sales, North American Business Platform as a Service, COE, SAP. We want to thank you for your time, and have a great day.